So we're here with Evan from Novation, and Evan, thanks for being here today. Appreciate you coming.
Yeah, of course. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
What do we have here today?
Yeah, so we have the brand new Launchkey Mark IV. This is the 49 key version, and I have the 37 Mini right here, which is a brand new SKU for the Launchkey. And there's a lot of great new features on the Mark IV launch keys. There's a lot of great creative tools. So there's a chord map mode, user chords, custom modes. You can split the keyboard now. Lots of fun stuff that I'll show you. And yeah, we're super stoked to have the Launchkey Mark IV available at zZounds.
Sick. I mean, they look really nice. And how many different versions are there? This is the 49 key here, right? Mm-hmm. And how many different versions in total are there?
There's a bunch. So there's two mini versions. That's the 37. There's a 25 mini, which is the smallest one. Then we have a regular size key, 25, 37, 49, which is this one. And then we have a 61.
Sick.
So there's a size for, any use case.
Yeah. And in terms of the interface on them, I see for example, the mod wheels on that one, and the Mini has the sliders there. How does that vary throughout the different sizes?
Yeah, so on the Mark IVs, there's more feature parity between all of the models. So all of the chord modes and the Arpeggiator is the same on all of the Launchkey models, including the Minis.
Oh, cool.
The differences are obviously the bigger models will have these vertical faders, and the bigger models have a split mode, so you can split part A, part B, send them on different MIDI channels that the Minis don't have. Just because, they're tiny. But besides that, they all have MIDI out. They're all USB, and there's a lot of feature parity between all of the models. So you're not missing out on much going from a Mini all the way to a 61, besides, obviously, the bigger semi-weighted keys.
Very cool. And then in terms of let's say I'm new to production and all that, how plug and play is this? Whatever DAW I have, this will just plug right in and map itself out?
Totally. Yeah, so there is a kind of a misconception or a perception that the Launchkey Mark IIIs were Ableton-only controllers, which is not true, and that's even more true of the Mark IVs. There are scripts for every major DAW, Ableton Live, Logic, Cubase, Huey support, everything, every major DAW is plug and play. So be able to plug this into your DAW and use all the features right away. No drivers, nothing like that.
Very cool. And out of the box, what's all included with this?
Yeah, so there's a great software package that comes with all of the Launchkey Mark IVs. So from the Minis all the way to the 61, they all include Ableton Live 12 Lite. There's a couple plugins by a company named Clevgran. There's a reverb delay plugin. There's a compressor plugin, and you get this really cool drum machine called Slammer, which I actually am a big fan of. You get Orchestral Tools, it's an orchestra sample library, essentially, and that's exclusive to the Launchkeys. You get a melodics, a couple tutorials on melodics, which is Dance Dance Revolution for playing keyboard.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, so you get a great software package included with the Launchkey. Oh, yeah, and the biggest one, I almost forgot, you get some Oberheim plugins as well. So Oberheim is part of Focusrite Group now. So these are officially licensed by Tom Oberheim emulations of vintage Oberheim synthesizers. So those are VSTs that come with the Launchkey.
Very cool. So you get quite a lot with that then. And then, can we see some of the features on there, some of your favorite things? I know you mentioned Slammer, and I was curious as well about some of the features, but as you go, maybe I'll jump in and ask about it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have Ableton Live open right here. That's my DAW of choice. But you can use any of these features with your DAW of choice. And the first thing I think is my favorite feature of the Launchkey Mark IV is this new Chord Map mode. So the first thing we want to do is choose a scale. Pick a scale.
Let's do A minor.
A minor. All right. So we can see on the screen here, we're choosing our scale with the encoders, A minor, but we can do, major, Dorian, all that fun stuff. But A minor. And now all these keys are going to be in A minor. And then when we turn on Chord Map, we'll notice that the pads change colors. So these 8 blue pads are now chords in A minor.
That's cool.
Yeah, and these orange pads are what we're calling performance modifiers. So if I press this pad here, it's going to arpeggiate the chord up. This will arpeggiate down. These are inversions up, inversions down. Then we have bass note chord. And then we have left half of the chord, right half of the chord. So using all these in tandem, you can come up with some really cool, rhythms and chord progressions.
That's super cool.
Yeah. And then we can take it a step further. So there's 40 banks of chords in each key. So these 2 encoders here, which are endless encoders now, so that's an improvement over the Mark III. The Mark III had pots, so they would stop. These are endless encoders. And we have these 2 knobs are called Adventure and Explore. So when we turn Adventure up, it's going to spice up the chords a little bit. We're getting really jazzy the more we turn it up. And then Explore, yeah, see?
That's cool.
We'll change the chords even further. So you have 40 banks of chords to play with in every key.
Wow.
And aside from that, you can also change the spread of the chord. You have roll, which will, roll the chord. Yeah, so
that's super cool.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with the Chord Map because I took piano lessons, but I didn't stick with it, and I regret that. So if you're taking piano lessons right now, stick with it. But coming from a drumming background, I know what sounds good. Like I know what chords I like. I don't know how to play them.
Yeah.
I didn't practice enough. So having a tool like this is extremely helpful because I know that sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I would ever be able to play that. But, the screen does show you the notes in the chord that you're playing. So, I'm sure it's probably tiny on the screen, but that's a D minor over F. So, yeah, having the screen and having the chords built in is incredibly helpful for somebody like me to come up with chord progressions that actually are interesting.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's super cool. I know, like, a lot of people are like, oh, like, they think that, new tech is making people like less of musicians, and it's like, no, like even if you know how to play, you can use this stuff and just make things like a lot better than, you might be able to on your own. So I think it's super cool and everything sounds great. You mentioned the screen. The screen's an upgrade too, right? Is that right? It's an OLED this time?
Yeah. It's an OLED screen and it will display what the encoders are doing here. So we have Adventure Explorer, spread and roll, so that correlates to the encoders here. And if we change the menu, the screen will update. So now we're in scale mode. We can choose a different scale. B minor. Here we go. Now we're in B minor. So the screen gives you a lot of visual feedback on what you're doing. So in the DAW, if you have a plugin that you have programmed, you want to change different parameters, it'll show you the parameter that you're changing on the screen. So that visual feedback goes a long way.
Very cool. And can you map can you play a chord and map it to a pad?
Yes, you can. So there's something called user chord. So if we hold shift, tap the pad, label user chord, we have 8 banks of 16 chords that we can save on the keyboard. And it's really easy to save a chord. We just hold an empty pad, tap in a chord.
Oh, wow.
And another really cool thing is these user chords will actually transpose with the scale that you're in. So if we change the scale from B minor back to A minor, those chords will transpose to A minor.
That's super cool. I was totally expecting to have to play the chord while, you know what I'm saying? Like play the chord and then
like
map
this.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But no, that makes it even cooler. I love that.
Yeah, just tap. You know, you can do something crazy obnoxious like this. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And I think I might have seen that there's a way to like if I want to hit certain chords or a certain scale to only do it on the white keys.
Yeah, so that's new to the Mark IV. We call it easy scale mode. So by default, scale mode is going to be in a snap mode. So these two notes, these are the same. So it's snapping the note to the next note in that scale. But we can change that to filter out of scale. So if it's not in the key, it'll just, you know, the key won't play. But we can put it in easy scale mode, which will map that scale to all the white keys. So if you know what a triad shape is like in C major, that'll translate to A minor, which, you know, ironically is all the white keys. So let's change to, you know, let's do E minor, F sharp minor. So that triad shape that you learned in C major is translated to F minor because now all those notes are on the white keys. That's
super cool. I'm loving this so far. It's like already super deep and like we're just barely scratching the surface. What other cool features are on there?
Yeah, so I'll show you fixed chord. Fixed chord was on the Mark III, but it's worth mentioning because it's another chord mode, and that's kind of the DNA of the Mark IV is all these different creative tools. Fixed chord, kind of like user chord. You press and hold, fixed chord, tap in a chord. And now that chord is transposed on all the keys.
Cool.
The arpeggiator on the Mark IV is new and improved. So the arpeggiator on the Mark III was great because it had a mutate and deviate mode, which would change the notes and change the rhythm. It was kind of like a generative arpeggiator. You have more control over the arpeggiator on the Mark IV because there's a whole new screen in the ARP pattern screen that will allow you to have more hands-on control of your arpeggiator. So we can change the rhythm here. We can add note ties. We can add accents and ratchets. So a ratchet essentially makes two steps on one step. So if we're in a 16th note sync rate, this step will now be, you know, two 30-second notes.
Cool.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of different modes on here. Mutate is back, so I'm going to turn latch on. The more I turn mutate up, the more it's going to mutate that chord, but it's still going to be in scale because we have scale mode on. Deviate is back, and that changes the rhythm, but now you have manual control of your rhythm. Of course, you have gate length, your sync rate, you have swing, tempo. But let's go to this cool feature called strum. So strum is an arpeggiator mode that allows you to strum that chord.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's also a polyphonic arpeggiator. So that's a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun for sure. And in terms of like, so a lot of times like, you know, like the quicker we can get an idea out, the better, obviously.
Totally.
So when connecting it to your DAW there, like, how is it like controlling like the mix window and like things like that and going back and forth from that to the track recording?
Yeah, totally. So by default, these faders are going to control volume, which is, you know, pretty standard. But there's also custom modes on the launch keys. So you have 4 custom modes for the faders, for the encoders, and the pads that can all be programmed to send out CC values, program changes. So that can do anything you want it to. It's as creative as you want to get with how you route your Midi. So if you want these faders to control a plugin, parameters of a synthesizer plugin, you can program it to do that. So it's up to the user to determine what they want to do with all the tools that they have available here. But there are some built-in features, of course. By default, these are volume. You can use the encoders to do pannings, send effects, things like that. But if you really want to unlock the power of the Mark IV Launchkey, you definitely want to dive into the custom modes here. And it's actually really easy to make your own custom mode. This program is called Novation Components. This is where you manage all of your Novation products, Launchkey Mark IV included. So we can do different custom modes for the faders here, and it's as simple as you know what CC value you want to change, CC number 34, send to Launchkey. We'll overwrite. Oh, I don't want to overwrite that, but you can just send it to your Launchkey. It's as simple as that. And there's even some built-in presets here for popular synthesizers, Bass Station 2. We even have a preset for Doom, the game Doom.
Oh, really?
So if you have Doom installed on your computer, you can use your Launchkey to control Doom.
That's awesome.
Which is kind of fun.
Yeah, that's super cool. Wow. It's like a little hidden gem there.
Yeah.
And then is there like, can you do any step sequencing with this?
You can, yes. So that's new to the Mark IV. And right now the step sequencer is exclusive to Ableton Live.
Okay.
So right now it's not available in Logic or Cubase. It's just Ableton Live. And that's the only feature that's really different in Ableton Live compared to other DAWs. But the step sequencer is super, super powerful. So if you are an Ableton Live user, you're really going to like this. So let's go over to my drum track here. And we're going to enter step sequencer mode by holding Shift and tapping the DAW pad twice. So if I tap it once, we're in clip mode, which if you've ever used a launch pad or any of the other launch keys, this will look familiar to you. It's how you launch clips in session view. But if we tap it again, we're in step sequencer mode. So let's go ahead and create a new clip. And then let's find the drum that we want. Usually I start with a kick. Just tap it in like that. We can change velocities, note length. We can even nudge it off the grid if we want to.
Sick.
We can duplicate this. So let's go back. So that's the drum sequencer. And there's actually a melodic step sequencer in this as well. And it works very similarly, but it's polyphonic. So we can actually play chords. Turn scale mode on. You would want to put some more work into your melody here.
It was getting saucy, though. I was hearing it. It was getting saucy.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So that step sequencer is, as far as I know, aside from the Ableton Push, the Launchkey Mark IV is the only MIDI controller that can do that step sequencing in Ableton Live.
Yeah, very cool. And will that work like off the bat with like Light, the one that comes with it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely. So that feature is exclusive to Ableton Live, but the chord map, the scale mode, fixed chord, arpeggiator, all that is built into the hardware itself. So you can use that with any DAW, and you can use it with external gear as well because there's a MIDI output on the back. So if you hook this up to an external synthesizer, you can use scale mode to cheat your way into playing good chord progressions. So yeah.
And then I'd love to hear some of the plugins. I know you mentioned Slammer being one of your favorite ones. Can we check that out?
Yeah, Slammer's a really cool drum machine plugin by Clubgrand, and I personally am really loving it. It's like an acoustic, very crunchy drum machine. A bunch of different presets in here. And then I want to show you the Oberheim plugin as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this is an officially licensed Oberheim SEM plugin by GeForce is the name of the company that makes this plugin. And yeah, it sounds great.
It's nice.
So you get that Oberheim sound, you know, right out of the box.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. What else does it have?
Yeah, I'll show you the Orchestral Tools plugin that comes with it.
Cool.
Let's go. And that's actually the piano sound that I've been using is from that Orchestral Tools library. So let's clear this and
It's nice.
yeah.
Cinematic. I love it.
Totally. And another thing worth mentioning is the pads do have polyphonic aftertouch. So the key bed is velocity sensitive, but the pads are velocity sensitive and have polyphonic aftertouch.
Cool.
So if we use a patch that takes advantage of polyphonic aftertouch, like this one, let me just play the chord here regularly on the keys. Sounds nice, right? But let's use the pads that take advantage of that aftertouch. So here's that same chord. All right, we get some movement going on. So that's just, you know, it's reading the pressure amount of my fingers on the pads and it's adjusting parameters in the synth. So it's a really expressive way of playing.
That's super cool. You like historically, me personally, my pads are drums always, you know?
Yeah.
And now I'm looking at this and like, it's just like, it's opening up a whole nother, you know, just flow of ideas of like what we could do with like melodically. It's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. Very expressive.
Is there any other like final features or anything that we might have missed you want to cover?
Yeah, we do have Capture Midi is back, which is one of my favorite features. If you are messing around and you forget to hit record, you know, let's say I really like that. And, you know, oh, dang it, I forgot to hit record. I can just hit the Capture Midi button. Well, it captured everything that we did. But it will go, you know, back in time.
Yeah.
And record that MIDI for you. So it's like always listening to the incoming MIDI. So you never have to miss, you know, an idea that you make.
That's amazing. Is that brand new on the MK4?
It was on the Mark III,
okay,
but it's back on the Mark IV, and I wanted to mention it again because I think it's a super powerful tool.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's all. There's like the memes and everything, right? Like how I sound in practice, and then like once we hit record. So
exactly,
that's cool.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah. The split mode is new to the Mark IV. So on the 49 and 61 key versions, we can actually split the keyboard into two parts. And we can notice here that we have part A, part B, split. So if I hold shift, hit split, the key bed is now split into two. And we can, of course, choose our split point. But that will allow us to send part A and part B out on different MIDI channels. So if I had my session set up for different channels to listen to incoming MIDI on different channels, I could use the key bed to play two things at the same time. And if you happen to grow a third arm, you can use the pads on a different MIDI channel. So you could potentially control three things at the same time. You could have your pads sending out on a channel, part A, part B, and go to town.
Sick. I love it. So it's more than just a controller. It's really like a vehicle for creativity.
Yeah, that's the idea behind the Launchkey is we wanted to give the user as many usable creative tools as possible, you know, to unlock, you know, what's in their head and to be able to get it down in their DAW or their synthesizers. So that's, Launchkey is the creative MIDI controller. Very
cool. And as far as like updates or anything, like what can, you know, do you guys do like patch updates and things like that?
Yeah, totally. If you were familiar with the Mark III, there were a bunch of firmware updates that added functionality to it, and that plan is on the Mark IV as well. I can't speak to, you know, what might be coming down the pipeline, but it's really easy to update your Launchkey or any Novation product for that matter. It's just Novation components, and it'll give you a notification to update the firmware. And stay tuned. I'm sure they're cooking up something cool.
Definitely looking forward to that. Well, Evan, thanks for, showing us the Novation, the Mark IV line here. It's super cool. I'm excited to play with it myself. And, anytime, man, come back. We're happy to have you, man.
Yeah,
It's been
thanks
great.
so much for having me. Yeah,
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Yeah.